When beloved adventure game developer and publisher Telltale Games announced a majority studio closure on September 21, 2018, letting go of 90% of their workforce, or nearly 250 people, fans of their unique brand of game design and interactive storytelling were devastated. The final 2 episodes of The Walking Dead, the final season, were handed off to Skybound Games, the company founded by Walking Dead creator Robert Kirkman. But other announced Telltale games, like the highly anticipated The Wolf Among Us Season 2, Game of Thrones Season 2, and their untitled Stranger Things game, were cancelled. Telltale officially filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in November of 2018, leaving a hole in the video game space for narrative-driven adventure games.
Ask any Lannister, and they'd do whatever was necessary to save Casterly Rock.
Fortunately for fans of interactive storytelling, 4 former Telltale developers, who'd left the studio before its closure, got together to form Ad Hoc Studio in the hopes of filling that hole left by Telltale. According to Variety's Michael Futter, Ad Hoc's co-founders Michael Chung, Dennis Lennart, Nick Herman, and Pierre Charette first discussed doing their own thing during a long night working on a game at Telltale, a company that was notorious for its brutal crunch times.
Thing is, something's wrong.
Chung left his position as a lead writer at Telltale in 2016 for a job as a senior writer at Night School Studio, the developers of Oxenfree, while Lennart, Herman, and Charette left to work on a project at Ubisoft in early 2017. When the hopes of forming a new studio under Ubisoft's umbrella didn't pan out, the 4 reunited to create their own independent studio, bringing with them years of experience in interactive storytelling. In the article announcing the company's formation and its vision for the future, Variety's Michael Futter and the co-founders of Ad Hoc cite Black Mirror Bandersnatch as the closest comparable to Ad Hoc's approach to interactive storytelling. According to Futter, quote, Ad Hoc isn't ready to discuss its first project, or who it's partnering with just yet. However, the team is strongly hinting that it will be an interactive, live-action experience. End quote. Bandersnatch may have been a mainstream hit, but it's nothing new. Kino Automat, the world's first interactive movie, debuted in Montreal at the 1967 World's Fair, and FMV, or full-motion video games, have been around since before the days of 1992's Night Trap. And as the Variety article correctly points out, Big Finish's Tesla Effect, a Tex Murphy adventure, Sam Barlow's Her Story, and Control Movie's Late Shift had revived the seemingly dead genre long before Charlie Brooker and co. launched their interactive episode of Black Mirror in 2018. It's also worth noting that in 2015, Lionsgate invested a reported $40 million in Telltale with the intention of collaborating with the studio to produce super shows. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly's Jonathan Dornbush, then Telltale CEO Kevin Bruner described the super show as, quote, one part of interactive playable content with one part of scripted television-style content. Both pieces, when combined together, are what make an actual super show episode, end quote. The Super Show concept never fully got off the ground at Telltale, but what they are planning sounds a lot like an episodic version of Bandersnatch.
Pulling control! Stefan, pulling control.
So, what new ground, if any, did Bandersnatch actually break, and what lessons could be applied to Ad Hoc's first project? There are 2 answers: production value and reach. The first thing fans of FME games will notice about Bandersnatch when compared to other contemporary games in the genre is the high production value. It looks, sounds, and feels like an episode of Black Mirror, and has a solid cast of actors. This may seem like an obvious point, but it's an important one. Charlie Brooker and Annabelle Jones's House of Tomorrow, the production company behind Black Mirror, is used to creating high-quality live-action content, so why would Bandersnatch be an exception? However, when compared to interactive games like the ones developed by Telltale or Quantic Dream, Bandersnatch doesn't even come close in terms of the amount of interactivity and possible story paths. Here's an illustrated flowchart by Reddit user Engineering My Sadness of all the possible paths and endings in Bandersnatch. Now, here's a flowchart created by GamesBeat to illustrate all the choices in Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 1. The first season was released back in 2012, and the level of interactivity and choice in interactive narrative games has only become more complex and detailed since then. While Bandersnatch is miles ahead of other interactive FMV games in terms of production value, as an interactive narrative game, it's way behind.
Die.
It wouldn't matter, because there are other timelines, Stefan.
If Ad Hoc can team up with a production company to combine the production value of Bandersnatch with the complexity and polish of modern interactive narrative games, they could have something that truly separates itself from the crowd.
So, Bandersnatch, yay or nay?
The other noteworthy element of Bandersnatch is its mainstream reach. In a statement issued to Ars Technica regarding the sudden shutdown, Telltale Games CEO Pete Hawley explained, quote, "We released some of our best content this year and received a tremendous amount of positive feedback, but ultimately, they did not translate to sales," end quote. This seems like a pretty big hurdle. If quality games and experiences aren't enough to drive sales, what will? Well, if you consider Bandersnatch an FMV game, which for all intents and purposes it is, then it's probably one of the most widely experienced and popular examples in the genre. This is due in large part to the brand recognition of Black Mirror and the distribution power of Netflix's platform.
What the f is Netflix?
The average person opens up Netflix and the first thing they see is a new episode of Black Mirror that they've essentially already paid for through their monthly subscription, so of course they're going to at least check it out. The result is a huge amount of cultural capital built on the reputation and accessibility of the franchise and platform. One obvious path for Ad Hoc to replicate this recipe for success would be to continue in the Telltale tradition of adapting established and widely popular IPs like Batman, The Walking Dead, and Game of Thrones. The other important factor would be finding and partnering with a platform that will put their project in front of as many eyes as possible, whether that be Netflix or any number of their direct competitors in the streaming space.
Today, interactive stories of this kind are available on your TV or laptop, your phone, so I'm developing this for streaming TV platforms.
There's a rumor that platform is Netflix.
I'm not allowed to talk about rumors.
While understanding the significance of production value and reach is critical if Ad Hoc wants to capitalize on the success of Bandersnatch, the importance of assembling a strong and experienced team cannot be understated. Layoffs in the video game industry are nothing new, but Telltale is an extreme case, going from over 250 employees to just 25 virtually overnight. That means there are hundreds of talented developers who may or may not have found a new gig in the industry since the layoffs at the end of September 2018, and who, given their experience, are best suited to create the kind of non-linear narrative experiences Ad Hoc is hoping to deliver. If the co-founders of Ad Hoc Studio are smart, they'll bring in the people responsible for making Telltale's library of games to help them create the next generation of interactive stories.
If there's a point to this, I hope you find it quickly.
Check out these other great clips from Mojo Plays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.